everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloye in Abuja. Let's get to it and begin again with our countdown from where we stopped yesterday. From today, the 1st of December, 2022, to the very first election in February of next year. It is officially 86 days to go, and we're counting down. Hashtag Nigeria Decide. You've been counting with me. Let's count on and count down to that date. Nigerians are anticipating the opportunity to elect their leaders in the February next year election. So get your PVC and make your vote count. Well, talking about the elections and preparations towards it, and some of the scary events that have led to this moment, it's some of the violence that we have seen so far. And so there is a stern warning coming from the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mogono, who today said to the state governors who are using thugs to prevent opposition from mounting campaign materials in their domains and their state. Mr. Mogono said security agencies will soon descend on those governors. Mr. Mogono was speaking today at a ministerial briefing at the State House, where he also warned that there will be no hiding place for the perpetrators when the law enforcement agencies take steps. Take a listen to the NSA.
If you cannot restrain your thugs, the government will do that for you. And you'll be called on the carpet and you'll answer questions. We have a lot of politicians, and I'm not being specific about any politician or party. This virus has to be contained. I have given a clear warning during the press conference that any politician who engages in any activity, any unpalatable activity, the use of thugs, and I know we have a lot of thugs, political thugs, we're going to apply everything within the powers of the government. So those elements who think they can deny other people the air to breathe, the political air to breathe and reach out to the local community should have another think. And I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. These political elements should call their thugs, their capo regimes to order.
All right, you heard the NSA there and a warning to the state governors. Now, let's tell you about a former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, who was in Abuja earlier today, and he said that Nigeria is yet to realize its expectations from world leaders at the independence in 1960. And the country has also continued to maintain its leadership position in the African continent. The former president said that he's in Abuja at the official launch of the book called The Letterman, written by Musikiliu Mojid. Take a listen to the former head of state.
When Nigeria became independence, it was a giant in the sun. That was the expectation. Not a giant even in Africa, a giant in the sun. That was the expectation of the world about Nigeria. Have we lived up to it? No. If we haven't, why haven't? Why haven't we? I think we probably don't appreciate what we have as a country. And I believe if we do appreciate it and make good use of it, we would do better than we are now. I believe the right lesson must be learned. We have all that we need to have. God has given us all that we need to have. That we are not doing what we should do is not God. God is not to blame. And we should blame ourselves.
The former head of state, Olusegun Obasanjo, saying Nigeria should blame itself, not God. Well, Yes, that's another conversation for another day that needs to be dissected fully. Tonight, two major issues are on the front burner for us on this program. In fact, that the People's Democratic Party is not happy with some of the statements made by a former governor of Edo State, Adams Oshiomhole, and they will be replying him, especially on the statement made on their presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. Before then, we will be dissecting what has become a major fear and the risk assessment on the security threats that have emerged ahead of the 2023 elections. And tonight, there is a report by the Tony Blair Foundation Institute for Global Change. There is a report, and those ramifications in those reports needs to be discussed extensively. We will do that, and institutions that are concerned about this needs to take action. So we'll get the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change to give us perspective on that. But before we get into that, I'd like to let you in on some of the political roundup stories.
Vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Yusuf Datti Baba Ahmed, has reeled out some of the major economic blueprints of the party that it intends to implement should it win the 2023 general elections next year. Mr. Datti was speaking at a World Press Conference in Abuja, where he was asked about the manifesto of the party, which has still not been released, and what it plans to do to tackle the multidimensional poverty in the country, based on the recent statistics reeled out by the National Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria. The vice presidential candidate says the manifesto was held back so that other parties will not plagiarize their blueprints. The Ogun State chapter of the Labour Party has called for the dismissal of the party's Director General, Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Doyin Okukpe, for failure to perform his financial membership status in the past 6 months, contrary to the dictate of the party's constitution. They also announced his dismissal alongside 10 others from the party in the state and has been replaced by others. This was part of the resolution reached at the end of a meeting held at the party secretariat in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, where they called for an emergence of a new Director General of Northern Extraction to reflect national character and political balance. They say their action has become imperative in order to enforce discipline and internal democracy. Also, Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court in Abuja has affirmed Oladipoku Adebutu as winner of Ogun State governorship primary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, after dismissing a suit by Jimmy Lawal for lacking reliable and credible evidence. Jimmy Lawal, who contested the May 25 governorship primary election of PDP, had challenged the emergence of Adebutu, alleging that unlawful and invalid delegates list was fraudulently used by PDP to conduct the election. Delivering judgment, Justice Ekwo dismissed Mr. Jimmy Lawal's suit, described Lawal as a spoiler, having defected from the All Progressives Congress APC, joined the PDP and allowed to participate in governorship primary held in May 2022. The court held that the delegate list Mr. Lawal is challenging is the same list approved by the PDP and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, which was used during the primaries in which Adebutu emerged as candidate of the party. An appeal court sitting in Owerri, the Imo State capital, has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to recognize Samuel Onuigbo as the authentic winner of the All Progressives Congress primary for Abia Central Senatorial District. Delivering judgment filed by counsel to Samuel Onuigbo, Mohammed SAN, against APC. Delivering judgment filed by counsel to Samuel Onuigbo, Mohammed SAN, against APC, INEC and Emeka Atuma on the judgment earlier given by the Federal High Court Umaya in favor of Emeka Atuma. The presiding judge of the appeal court, Owerri, Justice Rita Kpemo, upheld the legality of the party primary held on May 28, 2022, which saw the emergence of Samuel Onuigbo as winner for Abia Central Senatorial ticket. She therefore ruled that INEC should publish the name of Samuel Onuigbo as the authentic candidate. The Forum of All Progressives Congress councillors in Yobe State have pledged to mobilize grassroots support for Governor Mai Mala Boni's second term in office. The chairman of the forum, Mr. Ali Mohammed Gombe, at a ceremony to receive the campaigns from PDP to the APC in Damaturu, the state capital of Yobe, notes that the forum is working out strategies of mobilizing support for the party at all levels. Crisis in the Kano People's Democratic party still lingers as two factions go in and out of court proceedings to determine which faction is authentic to stand in the forthcoming 2023 general elections. Both factions, the Shehu Wada Sagagi-led faction and Aminu Wali faction, held primaries in Kano State. However, the Aminu Wali faction was the recognized faction from the national body, leaving the Sagagi-led faction out. However, on the 28th of November, there was a twist as the only female candidate in Kano contesting for Kano North Senatorial District, Leila Buhari, who belonged to the Sagagi-led faction, was declared the right candidate.
All right, then, everyone, let's get to it. Well, it's no doubt that the Nigerian 2023 election will be very intense, but there are fears of violence and threats to the peaceful conduct of the exercise. A new report from the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change has called on Nigerian authorities and their international partners to take urgent action to ensure that next February elections to choose the next president and the vice president, those of the Senate and the House of Representatives, and the governorship and House of Assembly elections later on in March are secure and credible. The report, which was released today, titled Democracy Under Threat, Why the Security Risk to Nigeria's 2023 Elections Must Not Be Overlooked, warns that the elections are under threat of serious disruption from violence caused by Boko Haram, the indigenous people of Biafra, secessionist group, and criminal gangs known as bandits, as well as from political thuggery and disinformation and fake news spread by social media platforms, which could fan the embers of insecurity while undermining the integrity of election campaigns. The author of the Democracy Under Threat for the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, Mr. Bulama Bukati, a senior fellow at the Tony Blair Institute for Extremism Policy Unit. He joins us live from London. Thank you so much, Mr. Bukati, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, great. Let's get to it because it's quite a read. If you look at that report number, it's about 23 pages, that the report that you have prepared, and which looked extensively at all the possibilities that could cause violence in 2023 elections. Basically, you have said that there are three major groups in Nigeria that the government needs to look at. You named IPOB and the ESN, which is tagged as a militant wing of the group. You mentioned Boko Haram and you mentioned bandits. These are the groups that you have mentioned as the possible threats to our elections. Give us a summary of what that report means in respect of these three groups.
Sure, Sheun, and they are one of the acute threats to the election, as you rightly pointed in the introduction. These three groups will in different ways seek to disrupt Nigeria's election, and they might cause serious disruption if urgent action is not taken. For example, in the case of Boko Haram, one of the Boko Haram's articles of faith, or one of the pillars of Boko Haram's ideology, is rejection of democracy and their vow to disrupt or destroy Nigeria's democracy. And they have attempted it in the past, in 2011, in 2019, and they will make the same effort in 2023. In 2011, for example, Boko Haram successfully forced us to delay our elections by 6 weeks, if you remember, when our security forces and intelligence agencies declared that they could not guarantee the security of voters and election officials in the Northeast, and therefore the election had to be postponed. In 2019, they attempted to disrupt the elections in Yobe and Maiduguri and in Gombe State. And now we know that this group has expanded, as you and I have discussed previously, to the Northwest and the North Central, and they are able to launch attacks now in southern Nigeria, which is unprecedented in the history of the group. Boko Haram is going to make more efforts in 2023 to disrupt our elections. Now, IPOB, on its part, picked up arms in December of 2020. And we know that it is therefore a new security threat that has emerged since the 2019 elections. Now, IPOB in particular has between October 2020 and June 2021 attacked 19 different INEC facilities, and they have done more in the past few months. So IPOB has been attacking, or the the Eastern Security Network, some people call them the unknown gunmen, have been deliberately and systematically attacking INEC, destroying vital critical election infrastructure and materials, and that is going to undermine INEC's capacity to go on with the election if things continue the way that they are. Bandits, on the other hand, have expanded as well and have also grown in lethality and sophistication since the last election. And we know that bandits may not deliberately try to disrupt the election, but they may abduct election officials to extort ransom. We know that some of the rural areas in the Northwest and the North Central are under the control of bandits, and these bandits might try to stop elections in those areas unless money is paid to them, as they now ask farmers to pay them taxes and stuff like that. So this is, in summary, how we think these three groups might affect the credibility and security of the 2023 elections.
All right, so let me ask, these groups that you have mentioned, the non-state actors and their armed groups, is there any particular reason that suggests that they might rev up their activities, or there might be any significant activities of these groups leading to the elections?
Yes, like I told you, Boko Haram has historically stepped up attacks every time there was an election. In 2019, they launched attacks in Maiduguri, on the Maiduguri airport, on the day of election in the morning, and they targeted election materials because they know that election materials are brought to Maiduguri through the airport and even to Yobe State. So they wanted to destroy the materials. If they had succeeded, there wouldn't have been election in Maiduguri and Yobe. And if you had two states without an election, you might end up declaring the presidential election inconclusive, and that's going to cause lots of political havoc in the country. As for IPOB, like I told you, we have been over 20 attacks deliberately targeting INEC offices and facilities by the Eastern Security Network. But we have also seen a video released in April of this year in which four IPOB militants clearly said there would be no elections in 2023 if their leader Nnamdi Kanu is not released. And so these are clear attempts they have been making. As for the bandits, like I told you, there may not be targeted or deliberate attempt by them, but their activities is going to make it impossible to deploy election officials to some of the communities of the Northwest and the North Central. And we know that about 1 million election workers will be traveling on our highways and in the Nigerian waters. And we know that many of these highways are places that suffer recurrent bandit attacks. You remember that last year when bandits abducted 1,000 school children and their teachers in 8 different operations, they said they abducted the students because the students are connected with the government. Now, you can easily then abduct election officials on the same premise because the government will be disturbed and they want to force the government to negotiate, and therefore they are likely to target election officials to extort ransoms and other concessions.
So there is another part, a trend which you've shown in that report. You target the largest loss to election violence in Nigeria since independence in 1960. One that is very worrying is that of 2011, where we saw a spike about 800. And perhaps also worrying is the report given by INEC and security agencies that since the election campaigns kicked off, over 50 activities leading to violence have been noted by authorities in the last 2 weeks. Now, that is worrying, isn't it? And if you look at the trend, it increased in 2019 compared to 2015. Are you worried, or are there indications that there might be a possible spike based on the reports of the over 50 violent incidents that have happened in the campaign so far?
Absolutely, absolutely. Political thuggery or post-election violence is a very big concern. And as you said, if you just looked at 1999 to date, we have lost 1,525 Nigerians to election, at least 1,525 Nigerians. And the least we recorded in any election in the last 5 elections is 100 people. So you can say for the last 5 election cycles, Nigeria loses at least 100 people to election-related violence. This is unacceptable in a democracy. It is something that must be stopped. But when you look at 2019 as against 2015, like you said, there were 165 people that were lost in the 2019 elections. And we are afraid, we are worried that the 2023 election is likely to look more like the 2011 elections, when 800 people were killed, property worth billions of naira were destroyed, and 65,000 people were displaced as a result of post-election riots. The signs show that 2023, unfortunately, may look more like 2011. And if that happens, then we are going to lose hundreds of people. We have to work to stop that situation from happening. But as you noted, there have already been recorded about 50 violent activities. And some reports say 20 people have already lost their lives to violent election campaigns in this season. And this is 86 days before the elections. If things continue this way, we are going to see more and more and more people killed, more property destroyed, and democracy is not war. Election is not war. Countries around the world do organize elections, and they do them peacefully and smoothly, and Nigeria has got to do that. We cannot afford to continue to lose people, but the signs are unfortunately worrying as it is today.
Now, one of the areas that you touched on are those Nigerians that may not have their domain that are, of course, indigenous to them, and those are the people that are displaced. And you've also highlighted the astronomical increase in the internally displaced persons in Nigeria since 2017. How that will impact on the election, I'd like you to just mention in just less than a minute.
Sure. So there are currently about 3.2 million Nigerians that are displaced from their homes. And you know, by our laws, Nigerians can only vote in their polling unit of registration. And these people registered before 2019, today they have been displaced. So they may not be able to elect their candidates. But INEC has introduced the IDP voting centers. Unfortunately, these centers are only located in IDP camps, and most of the over 1 million IDPs in the Northwest and the North Central are based in communities, not in IDP camps. So they will not be able to exercise their franchise if nothing is done from now to the election. And that's why we called on INEC to introduce a system that will allow IDPs to cast their vote. Remember, Sherwin, that Nigeria's 2019 election was won by less than 4 million votes, and the 2015 election was won by less than 3 million votes. And you have 3.2 million IDPs displaced from their communities. So this number is going to make a big difference to the election, to the election outcome, and therefore these IDPs, there should be a transparent system to allow them to vote wherever they might be in the country.
Bulama, let's wrap up this conversation quickly. Unless I'd like you to, because you and your group, you've worked on the possible solution. We've talked about the problems. We've talked about the risk and the threats towards the 2023 elections. Well, I personally wouldn't want anybody to stay at home not to vote. We want all Nigerians to go all out, because this, according to, based on what we saw in the South Africa World Cup, this is our time. This is the time of the average Nigerian to decide for themselves. So they need to exercise their franchise. But if the authorities can take their pen and paper and probably glean from the knowledge based on your research, what are those solutions that you have highlighted in this report quickly?
No, this is a very important question. There are 11 recommendations we made in the report. And for those of us who would want to read the report, it's on the Tony Blair Institute website. You can see all the 11 recommendations. I will just mention a few because of time. Number one, we called on Nigeria's security forces and intelligence agencies to step up efforts to liberate areas that are currently under the control of Boko Haram or bandits, or where IPOB or the Eastern Security Network is operating. This is very important so that communities will be able to vote. Number two, we call on the Nigerian government to prosecute election violence offenders. You said on the top of your program, you reported that the National Security Advisor warned those who are behind election violence or political thuggery. His statement is fundamental. It is coming at the right time, but he needs to do more than a statement. Action speaks louder than voice, and therefore we should see example. 20 people have already reportedly been killed in this circle. The National Security Advisor and our security forces should work to detect those who perpetrated these crimes and prosecute them before a court of law, so that will deter others. We have also called on the media, and this is a great work you are already doing, Shaun, as well as other journalists. We have called on the media and civil society to fight fake news and disinformation, because we know that social media is contributing to unrest in our country. We have also called on traditional rulers, religious leaders, imams, and pastors to work against the manipulation of religion for political purposes, because we know that some unscrupulous politicians do that. Finally, we have called on the international community to understand the importance of this election and the threat this election is facing, and to stand with Nigeria and to send a clear message that election violence will not be tolerated, will not be accepted by the international community. Maybe the last thing the international community should do is to continue to support Nigeria's media, journalists, and civil society to continue to sensitize and educate Nigerians to help us achieve peaceful, secure, and credible elections come 2020.
Bulama Bokati, my good friend, thank you so much indeed for your time there. The lead researcher in the new report that came from the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, Bulama Bokati, there from London for us. Thank you so much indeed for your thoughts.
I'm so impressed at the level of research you did into this report. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Well then, we switch gears now. Senator Dino Melaye, welcome to the program. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
But we'll take a break. Senator Dino Melaye, he's here representing the People's Democratic Party. And when we come back, he will be replying and responding to what Comrade Adams Oshiomhole said about the candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar. Stay with me, everyone. We'll get some replies about the campaign and some of the issues thrown up. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. The heat is on as far as the presidential campaign conversations are concerned. And there are more conversations on the character and quality of those seeking the #1 city in Nigeria. Yesterday, we had a chieftain of the APC and a former governor of Edo State, Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, where he spoke about the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. Tonight, the PDP will be responding to some of the statements made by Mr. Oshiomhole. But for those of you who couldn't catch that, well, the episode is on our YouTube page. You can watch the whole episode. But let me allow you to at least to give a background to what Senator Dino Melaye, a spokesperson of the PDP presidential campaign organization, will be speaking to. Take a listen to Comrade Adams Oshiomhole on the program yesterday.
So if 5 people have reason to question the character of Atiku Abubakar, that you can't trust his word, that he can't even manage his own party, he can't grant concessions, he's so fixated about certain things, he's totally insensitive to Project Nigeria, the need to keep Nigeria together. He could go to a place like Kaduna and speak to a part of the country and say, don't vote for a Yoruba man. He didn't say don't vote for Tinubu, because that's a huge difference. You might say don't vote for Tinubu, but when you say don't vote for a Yoruba man, I said these people who call themselves ethnic nationalities, don't vote for Yoruba, don't vote for an Igbo man, the Igbo nation. So because the man is Igbo, it doesn't matter. The fact of being Igbo makes him unelectable. A man who seeks to govern Nigeria has said this publicly on record. How can you trust him? You can't manage your household. You are a serial divorcee, and you want to preach unity, family unity to me? No, that's not that.
Well, that's a part of what Comrade Adams Oshiomhole said yesterday. Senator Dino Melaye, thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. First, I will start by saying that Oshiomhole is a victim of is a victim of his own untamed tongue. And I'm surprised that Oshiomhole is yet to learn his lessons from what his unbridled tongue have cost him, including the disgraceful, shameful, humiliating, and unceremonious exit as national chairman of the APC. Before I go any further, I want to state unequivocally that the quote on what Atiku Abubakar, according to him, purportedly said in Kaduna is not true. Atiku Abubakar didn't make that statement, and there was no where Atiku Abubakar was talking about ethnic nationalities. Those are just beer parlor, street talks that he has catapulted into political relevance. To start with.
So what did Atiku Abubakar say?
Atiku Abubakar said that there should be no ethnic or religious coloration to politics. He started by saying, I am a pan-Nigerian. A man who started his statement by saying I'm a pan-Nigerian cannot, in the middle of his statement, now begin to segregate or show some colorations. I would not want to dwell on that. Rather, I want to say that the issue, the very unprintable statement by Adams Oshimole on Atiku Abubakar is actually very disappointing. Not too disappointing coming from him, because even on popular prostitutes in Edo State, know Adams Oshimole to be one of their popular customers. Because what I'm saying in essence is that Adams Oshimole is suffering from what I call CGR. CGR means chronic genital recklessness, and his own is garnished with matrimonial rascality. Because if you go to the social media today, there is a video of his genital organ sent all over the social media. So he attacked Atiku personally. So, and I'm saying that a man with this type of moral decay have no moral grounds to come to a respected studio like this and begin to disparage a nationalist, a philanthropist, a statesman, a former vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's coming to defend what is not defendable. He's coming to campaign, because I've said this on this platform before, that it is impossible, Sheung, for you to campaign for APC without looking stupid. It's not possible. Who is he trying to defend? He's trying to defend Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he's saying that Atiku is a serial divorcee. Atiku is married to Titi Atiku, his first wife. That marriage is over 50 years, and they are still together, happy and together. And you are now trying to defend a man like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you have Sade's mother, you have Sheyi's mother, you have Jide's mother, you have Abibat and Zainab. Those are the children of Remi Tinubu. 5 children from 4 women. And out of these 5 children, only 2 are known. Only Sade and Sheyi are known. Out of these 4 women, the only one that we know is Remi Tinubu. Others are mysteriously hidden somewhere. We have no record of them. Atiku Abubakar as an individual, you read his biography, you read his autobiography, you read his history. If you read it 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, he's still talking about the same person. You can identify his classmates, you can read about the school he attended, you can read about where he's from, Jada. There's no controversy about Atiku Abubakar, but everything about Bola Ahmed Tinubu is controversial, mysteriously controversial. Atiku has no controversy surrounding anything around him. Because as I speak with you.
Yeah, so the aspect of where...
And the most important, let me wrap up this thought before, please, so that I don't get distorted. And the most shameful aspect of it is that Bola Ahmed Tinubu's mother died a few years ago because of shame, because he's ashamed of himself, because he has identity problem. He could not attend his own mother's burial. Is that the kind of character you show? It's not personal. You show as a Nigerian, a man who is not mentally or physically fit, is not complying with the provisions of the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended, because the Constitution has said for you to be the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you need to be physically and mentally fit. Is that will you hire Tinubu? Will you hire Tinubu as an employer?
I would not like us to dwell on personal issues. What Nigerians are bothered about today is the character and the quality, the capacity of those who are wishing and willing to lead.
That's what we're analyzing.
I wouldn't want us to dwell
that's what we're analyzing. I'm trying to tell you
personality.
I'm trying to tell you that it's not personal attack. I'm trying to tell you that Atiku Abubakar is mentally fit, is physically fit. There's no controversy surrounding him. Nobody have accused Atiku Abubakar to be a drug baron. Nobody have accused him of being a consumer of drugs. He has not gone to any rostrum and begin to use languages that manifest advanced dementia. Even today, just today, he was in Tinubu was in Bayelsa. He still goofed again in Bayelsa, talking about the federal development of Nigeria. I mean, this type of comments that showed a lot of mental disorders and psychotic factors should be. It's only in Nigeria. Right. Will APC, with the kind of manifestation of satanism, of wickedness, of killing, of kidnapping, of poverty, of hunger, will have the temerity to come out and ask for votes? Not only ask for votes, then they will have the audacity to attack a man who is stable, who is mentally and physically stable, who is experienced, who have all it takes to move us out of the woods and out of the doldrum. Only a man like Oshomole will support the likes of Tinubu and speak for him.
Let's dwell on the issues, perhaps. These are the issues that brought up these conversations and some of those traits of personalities that have cropped up in the last 24 hours. But now, one major issue that came up is what the candidates have to bring to the table to lead this country. And one of the questions that was raised is the agenda of Bola Tinubu in wanting to lead this country. And perhaps his visit to Baramoto Kingdom, for example, in the Niger Delta region of the country. And he has said that his candidate has approached them and promised them to alleviate their sufferings when he gets to office. Does your candidate, for example, have the love and the plan for these people who are perhaps, when they were speaking, they spoke about how much they've been neglected and how much their plight has been sidelined and their side had not been looked into. Now, what is the plan of Atiku Abubakar to the issues in the Niger Delta, to the Ijaw people of the Baramoto Kingdom that spoke up? That's one of the issues that raised the controversies.
I understand what you're saying, and I want to tell you this, that you cannot even be quoting APC or quoting Bola Ahmed Tinubu if you are talking about the future of this country, if you are talking about the independence of this country, if you are talking about economic, political, and social revival of this country. You cannot be talking about them because, to start with, a leader must be coherent. A leader must be mentally and physically okay. A leader must be able to comprehend the problems of this country and differ solutions to them. With the manifestation, I repeat again, with the manifestation of advanced dementia, APC have no solution at all to the problems of this country. Coming back to Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar have developed a covenant with Nigerians, which he put up as a book, a small readable book called My Covenant with Nigerians. And in this covenant for Nigerians, he has articulated 5 major cardinal objectives and agenda.
Speak to us about that one that relates
to this country.
That relates specifically. No, just a moment, because I asked a specific question on the Baramoto people.
I'm coming there. This is not a jam question.
Yeah.
You expect me to lay a foundation.
But because Nigerians don't want to be confused. Because
we're not confusing them.
One of the agenda for us as journalists, that we will not allow politicians to confuse the issues for the people of this country. We will make sure that the issues are treated and they are hit on the nail. Yeah. One of the issues, which I will raise a few others in the course of this conversation, is that for those people in the Niger Delta region, they've talked about spillage, they talked about pollution, they've talked about a whole lot of the poverty level in that part of the country. Does your candidate have a plan for this set of people?
Yeah, before you interjected, I was flowing to that direction. And I want to tell you this, that if you take up a look at our agenda, no political party or presidential candidate have a robust solution to the problem of the Niger Delta like Atiku Abubakar. Because you know why? He understands the problem. Having sat in the vantage position of a vice president of the Republic of Nigeria, ab initio, who actually worked towards the creation of the Ministry of Niger Delta. It's Atiku Abubakar. It was his blueprint. It was his own personal blueprint that gave birth to the Ministry of Niger Delta and the issue of NDDC and all that. So, to start with, this man who initiated the process for the creation of attention for the people of Niger Delta when he was vice president cannot become president and become alien to that problem. The issue of oil spillage is there addressed. The issue of poverty is there. And through restructuring, he is the only presidential candidate that is talking about restructuring of the country today. Through restructuring, host communities will definitely benefit and enjoy their natural resources and endowment. Atiku have also proposed some constitutional amendments. He has put up together constitutional, the best set of constitutional lawyers in this country who have proposed, hands-on as he's becoming president by the grace of God, he is going to initiate constitutional amendments that will give meaningful life to the people of the Niger Delta. And not only giving a meaningful life to the people of the Niger Delta, Atiku have said it in different forums, that the IOCs, the relationship between the IOCs and the host community will be looked at. The issue of, like I said, not only the issue of spillage, even the issue of pollution in entirety will be looked at. The economic and social relevance of the people of the Niger Delta, where they will have a say in the resource that is leaving their communities, will be looked at. All this is embedded in that book called My Covenant with Nigerians. Right. And I'm assuring you that Atiku will not give lip service, because Atiku understands the problems. We're not saying just come and talk. No. In practicality.
So let's look at another angle. Part of the question that I raised is, can we get a president that Nigerians can trust, that will further unite, not divide this country? Yeah. And that's perhaps the question mark that Mr. Shomole raised on the character of your candidate when he says he cannot be trusted. And he brought up the relationship between himself and his former principal, President Olusegun Obasanjo, and he brought to the bear the question about the 5 governors in the PDP and perhaps the division in the People's Democratic Party. He said, according to Mr. Shomole, that Atiku cannot be trusted. How do you respond to that?
Anyway, I will start by saying that instead of Shomole talking about what they can do as a government, instead of him quoting, he was dabbling into domestic issues. And he was quoting and talking as if he's quoting the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Number one, look at it. Atiku is the most trusted presidential candidate of all the 18 presidential candidates we have in these 2023 elections. The West are comfortable with it, Atiku. Southerners are comfortable with it. The Hausa Fulani, the Ijaws, everybody is comfortable with Atiku Abubakar because he's not only a pan-Nigerian. No, even witches and wizards cannot accuse him of being a religious bigot or an ethnic jingoist. Because we all know, everyone in this country knows Atiku Abubakar.
Does he have what it takes
as I speak with you,
unite this country?
As I speak with you, Atiku Abubakar done his quest to get the ticket of the PDP, went to every part of this country and he was welcomed. And Atiku is the only presidential candidate who got votes from every zone of this country. Tinubu did not even visit the entire southwest and southeast. He didn't go to any of the states in the southeast when he was going around seeking for the ticket of his country. Go to the core north and say Tinubu. Nobody knows who Tinubu is. Go to the southeast. Go to Umuleri. Go to Aguleri. Go to Nnewi. They don't know who Tinubu is. So the only nationalist who has got friends in every nook and cranny of this country, and by the virtue of having been vice president, have contacts, information with every part of this country is Atiku Abubakar. That is why it's not for fun that we call him the unifier. And talking about the 5 governors, I don't know why Adams Oshomole is taking Panadol for another person's headache. The crisis in APC is not only issue of 5 governors. If Adams Oshomole knows the kind of conversation that is going on with big goals of his party, he will retire to a sick home and take treatment.
All right.
So the problem in APC is too gargantuan. But I want to assure you that even the issue of the 5 governors is mentioning, it will be disgraced and they will be put to shame. Because I know that between now and the next 1 month, our party is going to come together as one.
All right.
And efforts are being made for us to come. It's just a minor misunderstanding. It has no effect on our elections.
Senator, let's wrap this up.
Yes.
And this is the same question I threw at Comrade Adams Oshomole yesterday. That if you have 30 seconds to sell your candidate to Nigerians, millions of them who are watching right now, what makes him the best candidate for the job in 2023, what would you say?
I will tell them that our economic problem, our security problem, is all tied to hunger, poverty, and unemployment. And only a private sector driven economy can give us a solution. Today, Atiku is a billionaire with enterprise. Tinubu is a billionaire without enterprise. Atiku is a giant, a captain in the private sector. So he is the only one that has the capacity and capability to create an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive in this country. And he has the connection with the presidents of our neighboring country to tame all our security problems. Atiku was trained by the police before he got into the customs.
Senator, we are totally out of time, but I mean, there has been a lot of conversation about what Oshomole said, that perhaps what he meant was not Atiku as a divorcee in a personal family life, as someone who had politically left other political party. That was perhaps what it was.
And quickly I will tell you,
we don't have time.
No, quickly I will tell you that he lied. Tinubu moved from APP to AC, AC to ACN, ACN to APC. So he has moved to 3, 4, 5 parties. Yesterday he was saying on this program that Tinubu have not changed party. He has moved from APP to AC, AC to ACN, ACN to APC. So the issue of moving party is not an answer. It is quest to solve the Nigerian question. And Atiku Abubakar is poles apart. It's comparing light and darkness when you talk of Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar.
Senator Dino Melai, thank you so much.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. The same problem, no time.
Even if it's 2 hours, there will be time. But thank you so much for your right of reply and your response. Thank you so much indeed. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Wakimale. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.